advised, this is a stolen moped.
The reason I stopped you is when you came out of the barns, but no offence to you, but you're a black male, okay? I'm not going to lie to you.
We also need to give police the confidence to use existing laws, such as stop and search.
Okay, namely knives.
At least you just come back from a strip search. Why are you not doing this?
Made the big changes around stop and search to give the police the ability, more freedom, flexibility and powers to apply stop and search.
Please, bro, look, that one and that one. Listen to me.
Stop! Get what's the f is he done? Get him off the floor!
For generations, the relationship between the police and black people has been unlike any other. Some might argue that the police have dealings with all races, but the connection with black communities is unique, rooted in history, deep, almost tribal, yet always adversarial. When we look at the taxation of IC3, we see more than numbers on paper. We see a weapon of psychological warfare. Its roots stretch back to slavery. The control and suppression are not just financial, but mental, which causes a relentless endurance of insidious oppression. When we talk about the police, we often talk about power, real tangible power, written into law and enforced by the state. They hold the authority to detain, to search, to arrest. They can use force when they believe it's justified, and in some places even lethal force. They have the right to stop you, question you, and decide in that moment what happens next. In the aftermath of the 2011 London riots, the city and the Metropolitan Police found themselves in turmoil. The unrest had gripped London in a chokehold, and public confidence in law enforcement was shaken. Amid the chaos, then Mayor Boris Johnson demanded answers.
To riot, people who go out to disturb the peace of others in this city will continue to be met with the full force of the law. He wanted to know how many gang members were operating in London, and more importantly, how to stop them. Under political pressure to respond, the police devised what they presented as a solution: the gang's matrix. Designed to satisfy political demands as much as to address public safety, the matrix became a symbolic cure to the unrest. It allowed officials to claim control, to show they were cracking down. Yet, beneath the surface, the matrix served a different purpose. It appeared to draw a direct line between the riots and London's gang activity, a narrative that aligned neatly with Boris Johnson's public stance.
Let me be absolutely clear. Those responsible for this violence and looting will be made to face the consequences of their action.
The gang's matrix was not merely a police database. It evolved into a sprawling register shared with agencies like the DVLA, housing associations, local authorities, and even employers. Its influence reached as far as Criminal Records Bureau checks, effectively branding individuals as risks long before, and often without, any criminal conviction. Presented as a risk assessment tool, the Matrix leaned heavily on the word gang as a buzzword to justify its reach, but the data told another story. The overwhelming majority of those listed were black, young men and boys categorized as potential threats simply by association, appearance, or postcode. In practice, the Matrix became a convenient mechanism to profile and penalize black Londoners, from school-age children to adults. It was, in essence, a modern form of surveillance and social control, hidden tax on being black in the capital. The criminal stereotype is probably the most dangerous stereotype of them all. It has a long history of consistently being embedded in legal systems, globally spread, directly linked to police and punishment. It's the perfect weapon for fueling fear, justifying harsher sentences, higher incarceration, being guilty before innocent employment restrictions, and schooling, which for some is a disguise for a PRU. This eats blacks for breakfast.
Response to black on black gun crime.
We have a major problem with black gangs.
This gang culture that is killing innocent young black kids. But we won't stop this by pretending that it isn't young black kids doing it.
Stereotypes rarely stay confined to the streets. Once they enter film, they become amplified, repeated again and again until they start to feel like reality. Cinema has the power to take small cultural details, like clothing or hairstyles, and turn them into symbols. And that's the real danger of stereotypes, not the tiny sliver of truth they may contain, but the way they erase individuality. But when those symbols are framed negatively, they reinforce the very tropes that define and often stigmatize a whole group of people. Take the British media moral panic around the name Yardies, for example.
The cult of the gun gangs is a way of life in Jamaica.
A term that had originally meant someone from Jamaica, but was sensationalized by tabloids and police to mean ruthless, drug-dealing Jamaican gangs terrorizing London. These headlines didn't stay contained. It fed into Hollywood, where films in the 90s like Marked for Death translated those caricatures onto the big screen, staying consistent with the chaotic, reckless and violent gang activity, with no structure or discipline, at the same time creating a template for other films like Predator 2 to follow suit. Portraying black magic and rituals, suggesting that Jamaican criminals were not only dangerous but supernatural, unpredictable and outside the bounds of rational humanity. This type of tabloid fear and cinematic exaggeration shaped most people's perceptions. Audiences were pushed to link Jamaicans with crime. Through constant conditioning by the media, the act itself, a black man committing a crime, became almost secondary. The mere sight was enough to trigger fear, shaped not by reality, but by a distorted image that had been carefully constructed and reinforced over time. And while white crime was treated as a default, black crime was framed outside the norm as black on black violence.
Rival black gangs are killing each other.
The Met campaign against black on black crime. Police know they cannot deal with black on black gun crime alone.
Singling out black people for a type of crime that occurs across all racial groups.
In response to black on black gun crime.
We have a major problem with black gangs.
You started seeing the Met Police's media campaign for Operation Trident. Everywhere you looked, there were posters and short films about tackling gun crime. But what struck the most wasn't just the message, it was the images. Every poster seemed to show black hands holding guns. Every reenactment featured young black actors, and every story was framed through the lens of black communities. Across bus stops, billboards and TV spots, the same pattern repeated. A portrayal that made gun crime look like a black issue, something happening only among people of the same race and colour. It felt less like an awareness campaign and more like a narrative being pushed, one that unfairly singled out and stigmatised an entire community. Now, the point isn't to pretend that crime doesn't exist in these communities or among certain groups. Of course it does. The real issue is the way the media frames it, singling out one group, boxing them in, and then painting an entire race with the same brush. Meanwhile, crime is something every race is involved in, but only some get branded as the face of it. It's important to be clear, black people are not the face of crime. That idea comes from racist stereotypes, racist media coverage, biased policing, and unequal justice systems have overrepresented black people as criminals. For decades, headlines, mugshots, and political language have reinforced harmful associations that don't reflect reality. These portrayals didn't come out of nowhere. They date back to colonial propaganda, which portrayed Africans and Caribbeans as dangerous or savage. Yet, because of existing societal stereotypes, drill can reinforce the image of young black men as intimidating or criminal. UK drill is a rap subgenre from inner city communities, reflecting poverty, policing, and violence. Videos often feature young black or mixed heritage men in dark tracksuits and masks, posing on streets with aggressive gestures. These visuals are part performance and part protection, expressing emotion, pain, and resilience. Drill can be very dark, with lyrics that often describe real violence and gang rivalries. Police have used these videos and words as evidence in court, connecting artists to crime. And this is nothing new. Throughout history, the police have repeatedly tried to control and regulate music, often shutting down venues before events could even begin, a pattern that stretches all the way back to the days of the jungle music.
Jungle for me is another modern phenomenon which will cross over and start to influence major artists.
Jungle raves in the 90s started to challenge traditional control of nightlife and public space. Authorities often cracked down, not just because of crime concerns, but because of discomfort with black youth claiming cultural and physical space. Promoters often struggled to get licenses. Events were frequently shut down by police. Black cultural innovation was often criminalised. The media often framed them as problems, violent, antisocial, criminal, or corrupting youth.
Call it them. Why do you think that I'm stupid? I've got brains, I can never be.
I don't call what I do grime. Where's the person to stand up there and say, I called it grime or I called it urban? No one. Because who named it? All them people that sit in their offices, whatever, looking down on man.
Yeah, I've come too far to turn around. Can't look back, I need to turn my life around.
The parallels between the UK and the US when it comes to media bias and over-policing have a similar pattern. The UK media has long shown moral panic around genres linked to black and working class youth, from jungle and garage in the 90s to grime and drill today.
Social media companies have removed hundreds of drill tracks at the police's request, but Instagram's oversight board recently said it was concerned drill is being over-policed.
It is a textbook, really, of what goes wrong when rap music is introduced. It always brings in stereotypes about criminality, about violence, and particularly when you've got groups of youngsters in the dock, the music becomes a soundtrack for shoring up the idea of the gang.
When audiences see images of council estate backdrops combined with what the media already portrays about those areas, a certain perception begins to form. The constant over-policing of young black men reinforces this bias, making it easy for viewers to connect stereotypes with what they see on screen. As a result, when an artist raps in that setting, or when a group appears together in a music video, they are often assumed to be dangerous. To many outside viewers, the image of a group of young black men in an estate is automatically read as a gang, rather than a collective of artists or friends expressing their reality. However, when UK or American rappers reference violence, deprivation, or postcode identity, they often articulate authentic social realities, offering commentary on poverty, policing, and systemic inequality that mainstream narratives tend to overlook. In this sense, rap can serve as a powerful medium of social expression and resistance. However, certain artists and commercial forces within the music industry have been criticised for glorifying violence, criminality, or hypermasculinity, which can perpetuate negative perceptions of black communities. Moreover, when these representations are consumed without context, they are frequently misinterpreted by audiences and media institutions, reinforcing existing stereotypes that associate these communities with danger and deviance. Thus, while rap itself emerges from lived experience, its commodification and selective interpretation can unintentionally sustain the very stigmas it seeks to challenge. The term rude boy we used to hear during the 90s often associated with black boys, and nowadays you hear more and more in the media and social media. The term roadman, even the algorithm across the internet creates spaces. Search engines automatically link the term gang and gang violence with black ethnic groups. Any normal kid that dresses a certain way or talks a certain way and looks a certain way becomes a roadman, creating a space for stereotypes and police and media to feast. For example, a fight between two groups from neighbouring estates might suddenly be called a gang war, even if it was more about friendship groups or postcode rivalry.
I do a lot of legal work with people who've been convicted of knife crime, young black men who've been convicted of these offences. And one thing I notice in the discussion around it is just how little we talk about them. And when we do talk about them, we talk about them as though they're aliens or the more common phrase, gang members. And gang members has been the most dehumanising, awful word we could use because it pretends that this is something far different to what it is.
In both the UK and the US, young black people have developed rich and distinct linguistic styles, often blending local dialects, African or Caribbean influences, and creative innovations. In the US, this might include African American vernacular English with its own grammar, rhythm, and expressions.
Fuck is you deaf, man? I said we ain't got shit going on right now, B.
In the UK, forms like multicultural London English or regional dialects have emerged.
What? Right, I don't know about your thing, you know, my brother, but you see my thing, I was getting girls from way back.
I found out that you took the food store. Good, furthermore, I'm flying on your big brother, fam. Who's this brother, Maxwell? He's a dickhead, bro.
Drawing on Jamaican patois, West African slang, and London street vernacular. These speech styles are part of black cultural identity, creativity, and solidarity, not just slang. However, mainstream society often judges people based on their speech, especially when that speech doesn't align with standard or prestige varieties. Like Standard English, some black people who speak in this way might be stereotyped as uneducated, aggressive, criminal, or unprofessional.
Fuck you looking at?
Regardless of their intelligence or background, this reflects linguistic prejudice, which is really a form of racial bias dressed up as concern for proper English. Films, news, and social media often depict young black speakers in narrow ways, linking their speech to crime, rebellion, or poverty. This reinforces stereotypes. Because of those stereotypes, these speech patterns can exclude speakers from certain spaces. Schools, teachers might interpret non-standard grammar as a lack of ability rather than a difference in dialect. Jobs. Employers may judge an applicant's professionalism by their accent or vocabulary. Social spaces, people may feel pressure to code switch, changing their speech to fit white or middle-class norms. So, the way black youth speak doesn't cause exclusion. Society's reaction to it does. The exclusion arises from linguistic discrimination, not from the language itself. Clothing styles from tracksuits, hoodies, chains, trainers, or streetwear brands in the UK to baggy jeans, baseball caps, or Jordans in the US often emerge from black cultural creativity and black subcultures like hip-hop, grime, drill, or dancehall. For many young people, however, society often reads clothing choices through racialized lenses. The criminalization of hoodies, tracksuits, or scully hats are frequently associated with gangs or criminality in media and policing, especially when worn by young black men. You know, think of stop and search rates in the UK or the US practice of racial profiling. Unprofessional labels. Across both the UK and the US, black hairstyles are often unfairly linked to negative assumptions of rebellion, danger, or laziness. Styles like locks, braids, cornrows, or afros are too often labelled as unkempt or unfit for formal spaces. The same styles, when worn by white celebrities, are suddenly celebrated as trendy or bohemian. This double standard exposes the underlying issue. It's not the hair itself that society rejects, but the blackness that's associated with it. These stereotypes have real-world consequences. In schools, some students are sent home or even suspended for violating grooming policies that ban natural black hairstyles. In workplaces, many young men feel pressure to cut their hair short or tame their curls to appear professional. In public, their hair can mark them as targets for stop and search policing or unfair suspicion. All of this sends a message. To be accepted, you must change who you are. So the label started being applied through an American lens, even when the reality was very different, which shaped how young, especially black, British men were seen. The UK didn't get the reality of the Bloods and Crips. It got the imagery, language, and fear that surrounded them. The American gang narrative reshaped how British society saw its own youth, turning local friendship groups into gangs in the public imagination. The stereotype of the criminal black male isn't confined to video games.
Now fucking face 15 years in prison for stealing fried chicken from KFC.
It's everywhere.
They kicked my ass out of the strip club, so I shot it up.
From news reports to cartoons.
Sorry, I was out of it. Wait, are we being robbed?
From films to AI-generated videos, the same image keeps repeating. The roots of the criminal stereotype can be traced back to 1915, when The Birth of a Nation premiered, which was also screened and celebrated in the White House, almost certifying its legitimacy. But the film functioned as propaganda, breathed new life into the KKK, justifying Jim Crow laws for control, policing and segregation of black communities. You saw white actors in blackface performing exaggerated caricatures, moving wild, aggressive and animated, portraying black men as violent, predatory, and savage, presenting a distorted vision of reality as history, normalizing racial terror with scenes of lynching, cementing ideas that black men were inherently criminal, animals. The image of the black male rapist became one of the most enduring tropes in American culture.
Miss Blank.
You attacked me. You raped me. Listen, you do what I want. He won't believe a nigga.
This directly fed into the racial imagination that shaped any false accusation by a white woman could destroy a black man's life. This mindset has led to incidents in the past, such as the case of the Central Park Five, a group of innocent young men who were wrongfully convicted simply for being in the same area where the crime took place. The stereotype upgraded to new heights with the crack era of the 80s, where drugs were purposely placed in black neighborhoods, with the government taking a blind eye to the trafficking of drugs because of the CIA's dealings with Contra. You saw a selective portrayal of blacks on the TV networks.
Crack cocaine on the street. That crack use is spreading wider.
100 times tougher on crack dealers.
And news outlets focusing heavily on constantly showing images of them getting arrested for drug crimes, creating and exporting to the world that the stereotype of the black drug dealer and gang member is here to stay. And because of that, a new wave of black filmmakers began telling stories Hollywood had long ignored. Directors like John Singleton, Ernest Dickerson, and the Hughes brothers didn't set out to glorify crime, they set out to expose it. They exposed a generation weighed down by poverty, racism, and despair, families torn apart, lives lost, and hope fading. At their core, these stories were moral warnings, urgent pleas for change. But as these images spread across the nation, their message began to twist. What was meant to say, look what society did to us, started to sound like, look how dangerous they are. For black audiences, these films were truth-telling, raw and real. But for many white viewers, with no experience beyond the screen, they became the only story they knew. So, despite the diversity of real black experiences, the image on the screen stayed narrow. A mirror meant to show struggle became a lens that distorted it, shaping how a nation saw not just the drug epidemic and black cinema, but blackness itself. Perfectly aligning the drug epidemic and crime with blackness for around the world for everyone to see.
Quick fashion question. Should I wear this Tech 9 with the high tops?
Don't Be a Menace is a movie that spoofs several early 1990s black crime dramas which depicted the struggles of young black men growing up in inner city America. But Don't Be a Menace exaggerated their tropes to show how repetitive and stereotypical Hollywood's portrayals had become.
Hurry up and buy.
The media often reduced black communities to cliches, guns, gangs, drugs, and broken homes, without showing the full humanity, humor, or diversity of those communities. Even through its humor, the film mocks the glorification of violence, hyper-masculinity, and street life as the only path to respect or survival. Behind the humor is a critique of systemic racism and neglect that shape life in marginalized communities. Even while parodying stereotypes, the Wayans brothers used humor as a way to reclaim and control the narrative about black life. They're laughing with the culture, not at it. Comedy can expose painful truths while also affirming identity, resilience, and self-awareness. Don't Be a Menace is saying we know the struggles are real, but the way the world and Hollywood tells our story is ridiculous. Let's laugh at the nonsense, point out the truth, and remind people there's more to us than tragedy.
I hate your black skin. I hate your black pants. I hate black pepper.
I hate little motherfuckers like you. Little niggas, you ain't shit. Think you're tough, huh?
Underneath all the outrageous gags, the film carries serious subtext about police brutality, racism, and double standards, fatherless homes, and systemic neglect. How pop culture romanticizes street life. The humor disarms you, but the message still lands. Every time Lock Dog's crazy antics make you laugh, there's a message moment reminding you what's really being critiqued. Their philosophy, comedy can speak truth to power, and people will actually listen if they're laughing. At that time, Hollywood didn't believe that films centered on black culture could make mainstream money. Unless they were dramas about struggle, the Wayans family wanted to challenge that, making Don't Be a Menace to parody Hollywood's limited view of black life.
What you say about my mama? Break yourself! No!
You break your fight, so the fight back!
To reclaim that image through comedy and to use laughter as both critique and empowerment.
The original rap criminal. My shot spell spray duck means my trigger fingers digital.
Before reaching film or fame, hip-hop was born in the Bronx as a creative response to the harsh social, economic and cultural realities faced by black and Latino youth. It was a movement of survival and self-expression, a way to claim identity, resist oppression and create art without formal resources. As hip-hop entered the mainstream, however, media and politicians began portraying rappers as violent and dangerous, using the culture to symbolize urban decay during the war on drugs.
To millions of teenagers, most of them white, he's the poet laureate of gangster rap, the rap style of a ghetto world where everybody's got a gun, women are bitches, and shooting cops is fair game. Gangster rap has become incredibly popular and profitable by selling lyrics about black-on-black violence to a young mainstream audience that wouldn't dream of going anywhere near a ghetto.
While artists spoke truth about police brutality, poverty and injustice, authorities treated their words as evidence of crime rather than protest. Record labels profited from promoting violent stereotypes, making the gangster image seem like the essence of hip-hop.
Rap is essentially a black art form, but it's a gold mine for white recording companies, which artists say encourage the hardcore lyrics because they sell. And surprisingly, 70% of rap music is bought by white young people.
12 and 20 bars, I'm funny on the money bar, white style charge, cause I'm pretty card, and we can kick the flow for the...
This created a distorted image of black men as criminals, with the music industry profiting from harmful stereotypes, while some artists leaned into this imagery for fame, and some audiences accepted it.
Those records are still going to be popular, those attitudes are still going to be out there, and those guns are still going to be glorified.
I think it's a way of rebelling against what they've grown up with, and it's something that's a little dangerous without getting too close to the reality of it.
These choices occurred within a system that rewarded stereotypes and punished resistance. A racial double standard also persisted. When non-black artists acted edgy, it was art. When black artists did, it was criminal. Meanwhile, artists like Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G., through personal conflicts, diss tracks and public statements,
There's gonna be a lot of slow singing and flower bringing if my burglar alarm starts.
When Tupac and Biggie were killed in the mid-1990s, their deaths seemed to confirm public fears of hip-hop's violence. To many, it appeared that rappers were living what they rapped about. During that era, the murders of hip-hop artists blurred the line between their lyrics and reality, giving the impression that rap was violent and reinforcing stereotypes of black men.
An agenda tonight because of fear. Fear that what started out as music to inform has turned into music that incites.
Media often framed gangster rap as crime, ignoring socially conscious messages, and treated storytelling as evidence of criminality. Some artists did become caught up in real violence, which seemed to confirm the stereotype. Yet rap reflects lived experience. Growing up in neighborhoods, artists told the truth about their environment, not invented violence. What began to unfold during this time was a wave of artists getting caught up in criminal altercations and street-related activities. Some were shot at or even shot themselves, while others faced jail time for gun charges or involvement in violent incidents. Gradually, a pattern emerged. The rap industry became seen as a dangerous environment, one marked by conflict and confrontation. Beneath that image lay a deeper issue. The way black men were being stereotyped and over-policed, constantly portrayed as threats, and repeatedly entangled in a justice system that seemed designed to keep them there. Music companies' cultural and marketing dynamics make artists with criminal backgrounds or street credibility appealing in certain contexts, especially in hip-hop. Many listeners value artists who really come from what they talk about. A criminal or ex-criminal background is proof of realness for a label. This makes an artist more marketable. Labels know that controversy sells. An arrest or altercation can spark headlines, social buzz, and fan curiosity. And some labels have even been accused of exploiting legal troubles to boost streams and sales, with artists' releases surging right after leaving jail. Many artists come from, or are portrayed as coming from, environments where contact with the justice system is common, and the industry often romanticizes that struggle rather than confronting the inequality behind it. It becomes a kind of matrix, a system that keeps turning. Generation after generation, young black men pulled in, pushed out, and reintroduced to the world under the same story, the same stereotype, the black criminal. CB4, short for Cell Block 4, is a mockumentary-style comedy starring Chris Rock. It follows a group of middle-class guys who pretend to be hardened gangsters to become famous rappers. Their fake gangster personas make them successful, not until the truth comes out. The film is a satire of early 1990s gangster rap, which was a critique of the commercialization of gangster culture. The gangster image had become a product and often detached from real black experiences, sold to white audiences, and embraced by the media because it was sensational. They pretended to be from the streets, gaining success by performing a stereotype, taking a jab at how culture gets commodified and distorted when money and image take over. The film also mocks politicians, parents, and journalists who attack rap music as the problem while ignoring the deeper social issues.
Jeez, we got all shot up. There's only one word for that kind of thing in my book. Wild.
Like CB4, Boondocks shows the audience in a smart and clever way how black stereotypes function in media and real life. It placed a mirror of hilarious, painful, and brutally honest issues that forces you to see what's wrong with how racism, and sometimes black culture itself, handles identity, race, and power.
Pardon me, are you selling crack?
What it look like I'm doing? Here.
Oh, lovely, lovely. I'll take 2, please. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Its satire exaggerates real things to expose how absurd they are. Huey, the radical intellectual, questions everything.
Yes, the government conspires to put a lot of innocent black men in jail on fallacious charges.
Represents conscious black thought. Riley, obsessed with gangster culture.
Shut up, punk. Instead of being Mr. Funny Nigga, why don't you try being Mr. Help a Nigga Go Jump a Nigga and get his chain back?
Represents media-fed stereotypes of black masculinity. Granddad, old school, wants comfort and status.
I'm not sick, silly. It's just a regular celebrity appointment.
Oh, boy, I love that.
Represents assimilation and generational conflict. Uncle Ruckus, the self-hating black man who worships whiteness.
Oh, how much you love white folks?
Best thing the good Lord ever did for the planet Earth.
Represents internalized Ruckus. These characters together create a living conversation about what it means to be black in a system that constantly distorts blackness. Like MC Gusto in CB4, Riley in Boondocks tries to act like a gangster because that's what media, music videos, films, rap culture tells him is real. Chris Rock saw how record labels, media, and even fans were more interested in the outlaw image than the actual music or message. So he made CB4 to expose the absurdity of how violence and crime were being glamorized and sold as authentic blackness. Rock explains how it's about what happens when an image becomes more powerful than the truth. So what this is showing us is that this isn't authentic blackness. It's a performance designed by entertainment and capitalism. The show mocks how pop culture turns pain into profit, the same way CB4 did. Underhood had a similar theme in that a young man called Kay tries to pretend to be a gangster to gain respect, but deep down he's not built for that life.
So you some kind of something now, blood? Think you're some kind of bad man? Nah, man, I just stand right, you know, bad boy, blood. Shit.
And that's the thing about be criminalized as for many young men, especially black men in societies that stereotype them as threats or strong but not sensitive. There's pressure to prove masculinity through physical dominance, emotional control, never show weakness, style and attitude. Riley isn't bad. He's infected by an image that looks empowering but is actually a trap. This is called hypermasculinity, a psychological response to limited stereotype definitions of manhood. When the world keeps saying you're dangerous, some people lean into that image because it becomes the only version of masculinity they see being respected. Even young men who don't live in dangerous environments might adopt that look or tone because it's what's seen as authentically black or cool. That's how stereotypes become infectious. They spread socially, not just individually. So every time Riley tries to act hard, Huey and the world around him reveal how hollow it really is. This cartoon is education through satire. It doesn't just critique racism, it also critiques how we internalize. The show is showing you that the system creates stereotypes, but it also teaches us to repeat them. So many of hip-hop's most iconic voices, Tupac, Biggie, Big L, Freaky Tar and others, were all born in the 1970s, growing up through the turbulence of the 1980s. They came of age in a world where being young, black and male often meant being criminalized before being understood. The violence of their era wasn't just external, it became internalized, shaping both the stories they told and the way the world perceived them. The tragic reality is that many of them never made it past 25, a chilling echo of a generation taught that the black male life expectancy was short, and the path to recognition often came with a cost. In music, in media, and in memory, they became both the voice and the victim of a system that defined them as the face of crime.
I keep telling you the same fucking thing about things, man.
You always telling me, man. What the fuck is the use of having soldiers if you can't use them? That's why I'm Rico. That's why I do what I do, man.
When you watch interviews or documentaries featuring figures like Alpo Martinez or Nate Boone, it's not just the violence they describe that stands out. It's the calm, matter-of-fact way they recount it.
Man, hand me another gun. That's the only reason why he was still alive. That Mac jammed on us.
To them, this was the norm. Growing up in an environment shaped by poverty, systemic neglect, and racialized policing, survival often meant adapting to a world already stacked against them. Everyone around them seemed to be playing the same game, a staged devil's playground, a matrix designed to keep them trapped at the bottom, fighting like crabs in a barrel. That was the 1980s, a decade that left a lasting mark on the perception of black people both in the US and Britain. The policies, the media narratives, and the music that emerged during this time all combined to create an image of black men as inherently dangerous. That distorted portrayal didn't fade with the decade, it has reverberated ever since, shaping public perception and cultural assumptions to this day. Hip-hop, film and street culture became mirrors and megaphones for this reality. The stories of survival, struggle and defiance were consumed as entertainment, often stripped of context, reinforcing the stereotype of the black criminal. What began as lived experience became a global narrative, one that still influences how black men are seen, judged, and treated, a legacy born in the crucible of the 1980s, and one that continues to affect generations.
No matter what we call heroin, it's gonna get sold. Shit is strong, we're gonna sell it. Shit is weak, we're gonna sell twice as much. You know why? Because a fiend, you're gonna chase that shit no matter what.
You start to see a clear thematic pattern in how black British and even black diaspora actors are often introduced to mainstream audiences through roles connected to crime or struggle, which is widely discussed among scholars, filmmakers, and media critics.
Now I want you to get yourself together and get back out there and get me my money. Now, I don't care how long it takes you, you get out there and get it.
Many blaxploitation films of the 1970s were deeply intertwined with black criminal stereotypes, though the truth is more complicated than a simple. Blaxploitation, short for black exploitation, emerged in the early 1970s as a response to Hollywood's lack of black representation. The word black was generally used in the head title of every movie. To some, it was comical. Blaxploitation kicked in. Simply seeing the black actors on the front of every poster wasn't enough. Black was often attached, tagged, associated. Many of the biggest blaxploitation hits did revolve around drugs, prostitution, or gangster life. Superfly, 1972, about a cocaine dealer trying to retire. The Mac, 1973, about a pimp's rise and fall. Coffee and Foxy Brown, Pam Grier classics. Revenge tales set in criminal underworlds. Black Caesar, 1973, a Harlem gangster epic. These films often showed black protagonists operating outside the law, taking revenge or beating the system through hustling or violence. the surface imagery often leaned heavily into stereotypes of black men as criminals or anti-heroes. And that is why blaxploitation is often described as liberating and problematic at the same time.
I don't give a shit about what happened to you.
We have been fighting negative images ever since I can remember. All our history deals with fighting stereotype negative images. And I think we had gotten to a point where we were just rising above that. And suddenly, to deal with what I consider another level of stereotypes.
For example, Live and Let Die begins, pulling the audience back into the 1970s. As Bond moves through Harlem and the Caribbean, the film fills its world almost entirely with black characters, yet most are drawn as criminals, voodoo figures, or threatening strangers in the shadows. The movie doesn't explore these characters as people, instead it leans heavily on stereotypes that were common at the time. What might have seemed trendy or edgy during the blaxploitation era now reads as narrow and biased, painting black communities with broad strokes of danger and exoticism. So when the credits roll, the answer feels clear. The film may not have meant to be hateful, but it relies so much on racial cliches that it ends up reinforcing them. In that way, Live and Let Die carries the bias of its era, reminding us how easily entertainment can echo harmful stereotypes.
The only role they're gonna let us do is a slave, a butler, or some street hood or something.
What the Hollywood Shuffle was trying to say was that Hollywood profited from stereotypes, reducing black actors to simplistic, demeaning roles.
I ain't be got no weapon. Why you be gotta pull a knife on me?
Black artists often had to choose between fame and integrity. Ultimately, the film explores the personal and cultural cost of conforming to stereotypes by using sketches, dream sequences, and exaggerated auditions to make its point.
Could you tell him to be a little more, you know?
Yeah, Bobby. I need a little more black. You know what I'm saying? Like, stick your ass out.
Lead character Bobby, played by Robert Townsend, has to decide whether achieving success in Hollywood is worth losing authenticity and reinforcing damaging narratives about his own community. Unlike gritty drama, comedy wasn't about criminal survival. It was about social navigation, laughing through pain, exposing hypocrisy, and humanizing black experience. Where dramatic film often cast black men as criminals or victims, comedy positioned them as commentators, tricksters, and truth tellers, characters who outsmart the system rather than fall beneath it. Many black American comedians, Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, Jamie Foxx, Will Smith, didn't just act, they wrote, produced, or shaped their own material. That gave them a degree of creative control rarely offered to dramatic actors early in their careers. Eddie Murphy broke out on Saturday Night Live and Beverly Hills Cop, playing smart, funny, charismatic black leads who challenged authority without being criminals.
This place has the worst security in the nation.
Martin Lawrence's Martin sitcom and films like Bad Boys flipped the script. A black cop, not a black suspect. The success of Coming to America, House Party, Boomerang, The Fresh Prince, and Bad Boys proved that comedians can exist outside the criminal narrative. But even though it's possible for comedians to exist outside the stigma of the criminal stereotype historically, Hollywood was not always comfortable with black men in positions of visible power, especially in the 1970s to 1990s. So when black comedians like Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, Martin Lawrence, and later Kevin Hart became movie stars, were studios suggesting that black comedians were non-threatening because they're funny, not angry? If to say, he's a black man with a badge and a joke, not a gun and a grudge, and heroic while still relatable to mainstream, often white audiences? Or was they offered roles, and the way those roles were marketed reflect an industry effort to make black masculinity palatable and profitable to majority white audiences? Because a funny black man could be seen as approachable, lovable, and safe for white audiences to root for, so it was like a calculated image management strategy. Studios knew that these comedians already had a strong black fan base and the ability to make white audiences laugh without feeling accused, which in some cases papered over the cracks of being the violent black criminal.
All right, listen up. I don't like white people. I hate rednecks. You people are rednecks. It means I'm enjoying this shit. You
know what I am? I'm your worst fucking nightmare. Heard of him now, man?
Within 48 hours, Eddie Murphy's characters as a criminal was the backstory. Eddie Murphy plays Reggie Hammond, a streetwise convict temporarily released from prison to help white cop Jack Cates, Nick Nolte, solve a case.
We ain't partners, we ain't brothers, and we ain't friends. I'm putting you down and keeping you down until Gans is locked up or dead. And if Gans gets away, you're gonna be sorry you ever met me.
So this time Murphy inverts the stereotype as the charismatic, funny and sharp. Ends up being more competent and moral than the real cop. The crime part becomes a backstory, not his identity. This performance was revolutionary because it humanized the criminal stereotype without scaring the audience. But it also limited how Hollywood was willing to portray black power. You could be smart, rebellious and streetwise as long as you redeemed yourself through the system by helping the cop. You could be funny and clever as long as your anger stayed humorous, not political. The cracks, racism, inequality, stereotype were still there, just covered with charm and punchlines. Eddie Murphy knew how to use the space to show intelligence, rhythm and wit in a way Hollywood rarely allowed black men to do. He wasn't just the comic relief, he dominated the screen. So even though the role was shaped by stereotype boundaries, he expanded what a black lead could be, paving the way for Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, and later Kevin Hart. So black comedy and gangster rap both emerged as unapologetic, raw, and brutally honest art forms, but they had very different social effects because of how audiences interpreted them and how the system chose to profit from them. They both made people uncomfortable. At first, black audiences said, "Finally, someone's saying it." White institutions said, "This is dangerous." Comedy made white audiences comfortable with blackness. Rap made white audiences excited and scared by blackness. Eddie Murphy could walk into Beverly Hills Cop, and audiences loved him. NWA could rap the police, and audiences consumed it as rebellion, not empathy. Both sold millions, but the emotional meaning was opposite. So while both started as resistance, the system filtered comedy to make it non-threatening and exploited rap to make it hyper-threatening. In short, comedy got softened, rap got weaponized, almost slightly moving the needle away from the reality of the black criminal stereotype.
Well, Robert, I've played 9 crooks, 4 gang leaders, 2 dope dealers. I played a rapist twice. Whoa. That was fun.
You too can be a black street hood, but this class is for dark-skinned blacks only. Light-skinned or yellow blacks don't make good crooks.
Yeah. When audiences repeatedly see an actor playing similar roles, especially in crime-related or stereotyped portrayals, the actor becomes typecast in the public imagination. Viewers begin to associate the actor with that behavior or archetype, particularly when the actor's real-life identity overlaps with aspects of the character, for example, their race, speech patterns, fashion, or background. For the actor, this repetition can be both a blessing and a curse, which can either build recognition and career momentum or trap them in a cycle where casting directors only see them as that kind of character. Seeing the same actor play the same type of criminal roles does influence perception. It shapes how audiences see the actor, and often how they see others who look like them. The impact isn't just cinematic, it's psychological, cultural, and deeply social. This repeated initiation through crime-related roles becomes a kind of gateway to visibility, as if to be taken seriously as a black actor, one must first prove authenticity through the portrayal of hardship, violence, or survival. Some UK black actors are also musicians who come from a genre of music that is often policed and criminalized, which transitions them into narratives that connect their music personas to be seen as extensions of the streets in film. In America, many music artists have followed a familiar path, moving from rap into film. Figures like Ice Cube in Boys in the Hood, Snoop Dogg, and many others began to blur the lines between music and cinema. Whether audiences were drawn to them because they already followed their music, or because the artists showed genuine acting talent, their early film roles often carried a particular type of imagery. That imagery, however, tended to confine them, placing them within a narrow frame of black stereotypes. Take Ice Cube, for instance. Though he later went on to play a wide variety of roles across genres, his debut on screen was rooted in crime, struggle, and survival. It's not that these artists haven't broken beyond those roles over time, but there's an undeniable pattern, one that links music, film, crime, and black identity in a way that subtly reinforces a narrative that plants a subconscious idea in the minds of audiences, that this is who they are and that these traits are somehow inherent rather than performed. Some will say it's a form of institutional bias and audience expectation, and some will say casting directors, producers, and audiences have been conditioned to read black masculinity as either threatening or heroic through violence. And this expectation shapes what kinds of stories get funded and who gets hired. This recurring link between black artistry and criminality, both real and fictional, serves two parallel purposes. It reinforces the stereotype that blackness and crime are intertwined. Yet paradoxically, it also becomes a space where many black creators express truth and complexity about their environments, reclaiming narratives that mainstream media distorted. In that sense, the black crime genre becomes both a trap and a launchpad. It's where many careers begin, but also where many stories get stuck. Within communities, internalized bias whispers the same story, that life is limited, that potential is circumscribed, that identity is tied to danger. Breaking this cycle demands more than sympathy. It requires seeing the systems, understanding their history, and confronting the subtle, persistent ways bias infiltrates thought and action. Only then can we dismantle the stereotype, reclaim the narrative, and finally recognize the full humanity of those long misrepresented. So, after watching this video and hearing what's been said in the news and media and any other video about this topic, my question for you is, do some black rap artists contribute to negative stereotypes through lyrics that glorify violence or crime? Or are they simply reflecting the realities of their environment? Who, if anyone, should be held responsible? The artists, the industry, or the system that profits from it? Does rap music shape how society views black people as a whole? In what ways might the genre both challenge and reinforce stereotypes about the black community? Is it just entertainment when white artists glorify guns or violence in their music videos? Or are they judged the same way or face the same stereotypes or social consequences that black male artists often do? Or does he have to look, dress, or even act a certain way, maybe surround himself with black friends or adopt certain styles, behaviors, or associations to experience the social effects before he's judged by the same standard? Is rap music truly the cause of the criminal stereotype often linked to young black men? Or does that perception stem from deeper issues like systemic racism and biased media representation? How much has the media shaped our perceptions of young black men? When we see a group of black boys together in public, are we genuinely seeing them for who they are? Or through the lens of stereotypes that associate them with gangs? Be honest. If you saw a group of young black men on the train, what would your first thought be? Would gang come to mind? And if so, do you think that reaction comes from personal experience or from what the media has taught us to believe? How do movies, news reports, and social media shape the way society views young black men? Can you think of examples where the media portrayed them positively or negatively? Have you ever realized you made an assumption about someone based on how they looked or dressed? What made you rethink that assumption? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe